a woman is not there for just for eye candy or other sorts of pleasures, but for it's another human being in existence.
Hi, welcome to the third episode of TalkThatTalk. My name is Daphne Rudolph, and I am the host and creator of the online conversation series. So, this episode is very special to me because we are speaking about gender based violence and we are speaking about sexism and women issues within this episode. And it is really important for me to speak about these issues as I am a South African woman and these issues are really dear to me. And I really feel like this is something that should be addressed in society. Currently in South Africa, we have a femicide and we have a huge problem with gender based violence. South Africa is currently the rape capital of the world, where 1 in 4 women are raped and are raped every 4 hours. Yeah, I'm so glad to have just like a full female like audience today, or just conversation with just women, because I've literally wanted this. I actually only wanted to work with women on my platform and like only by POC women. Then I realized like, okay, then I'm gonna literally run out of people to speak to in the industry. Rebecca, I know that you are in sound engineering, but you were also or were also a composer, and then you're also a pianist. And then Lungile, I know you are working with the MICM.
MICM, but it was formerly known as Miyagi. So it's called MICM, which is an abbreviation of Morris Isaacson Center for Music.
Well, at the moment, I'm actually a student in the Netherlands at a music and technology university. I freelance part-time and I edit podcasts as a form of income. And yeah, I came from a radio station in Cape Town, Fine Music Radio, where I was one of the sound people there. I'm usually the one who is behind the desk, listening to everyone else speak and then just sort of editing it. And so to be asked to speak or to put my thoughts or to articulate my thoughts in some sort of coherent way is quite daunting. But yeah, thank you for actually inviting me, Lynn, to this, because I do think there are certain issues that need to be. I do think there are certain issues that need to be talked about, and certain solutions that we need to somehow come up with soon.
Yeah. The reason why I chose the first topic on sexism to be Eurocentric patriarchal industry is because this is exactly what it is. Part of why I've only created this platform now is because I've never seen myself represented within the industry that I'm working in. When I was younger, as a young girl, I always thought, well, okay, I can probably play in an orchestra, or I'm gonna have to play in a film orchestra or something that is not actually classical music or whatever I'm studying, because I thought, well, that this is not the industry that I clearly fit in. So I will have to go to the less serious things or things that I'm not studying in order for me to actually still be within this industry. So I literally just saw, the greats. For me, I play the viola. So string players would always refer to, Yuri Menuhin and this person and that male violinist. And then the conductors that conduct the orchestra are all men. If you have to look at the research of all the orchestras or literally any industry or any organization that is in the classical industry, it would literally just be white men. So it feels like we just don't have, there's no space for us, and that there isn't also space for blackness within this industry.
I'm Lungile Zaphi. I was born in Soweto, and my practice has been mostly around in the visual arts, mainly in terms of like managing a nonprofit organization, like from fundraising to strategy to just, you know, the whole operations. I'm still quite new. I was a bit scared that I'm going into this interview and I see it's like super deep into orchestra. I'm like, oh my goodness. What did I do now? What did I get myself into? But don't worry, I'm fine. So, so yeah, currently it's been like 2 years working in a music environment, and it's so lovely because I work with kids from around here in my community in Soweto, Central Jabavu. Often people would refer to it as White City. So yeah, my current role also focuses on strategy. The most important aspects about my role is fundraising and making sure that the center is running smoothly, it's sufficient, and our program is running. So we have about 17 teachers. We not only do strings, but we also have piano, we have penny whistle, we have guitar, you know, classical strings like cello, double bass. So it's a mix of variety, and it's such a beautiful center located in the heart of Soweto. And yeah, we just offer music education to our community. Yeah, we just use music as a tool to empower our community and use it as part of human development. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for the work that you do, Lungile. And I like the fact that you say that you use music as a medium to empower the community. I think quite often people use music as the only solution to empower people. And then the actual empowerment is lost, or the meaning behind why people actually came into communities is lost. And the fact that you also offer penny whistle is amazing, because then that means that you are not going into Soweto just with this classical Western idea of what music is, but you are actually appreciating that Soweto is a community with its own vibrant culture, and that we have to respect that.
Yeah, a lot, because I mean, when we gonna start to speak about the penny whistle, there's a Kwela music, which, you know, contributed a lot in terms of in the South African music industry, which can be another topic for another day. So yeah, yeah.
I mean, when you actually sent these topics to me, it took me a while to actually sit down and think about all the occasions throughout my life where, you know, there was a bias towards, or there was a focus on Western-centered art and inventions, and generally this was invented by men, or at least according to the history books, which are written by men. And I can speak from my perspective. I mean, I came from Stellenbosch University, and that's why we have quite a lot of mutual friends, Lynn. But I was there in the classical piano department, and I just sort of being surrounded by other musicians for me was amazing, because I came from high school directly and I started studying, so it was amazing. But then you sort of slowly start realizing that actually you actually slowly start realizing that the people that you see around you, they are generally represented in the music that we're playing, if you understand what I'm saying, or in the art that we were critiquing, or the paper, the composers we were writing about. It was 99% of the time European men. And also then, like even now, I'm over here in Europe, in the Netherlands, where they are. The Netherlands is supposedly like a tolerant, open society. Yet, when I scroll through the list of the lecturers who are teaching me at this institution, you know, I see the same face. And yeah, I mean, I could go into detail about this course. This course that I'm doing has been around for 35 years. And in 35 years, maybe there's one female lecturer that pops in every once in a while, but all of them are men. And surely, you know, me as a woman, as a colored woman from South Africa, I come to a place where I want to be taught something, but I also want to feel safe in this space. And when I see only the same face that doesn't look like my face, I kind of question my place in this space, and then I end up questioning my capabilities, and you know, and I also think that questioning is partially from the external as well. You know, you walk into a space that is predominantly white male, especially in the sound engineering industry, where I think the stats is like only 5% of sound engineers are women. When you step into a space as a woman of color, second layer, you kind of feel you feel that sense of being questioned. You know, sort of what are you here for? Are you the one that's supposed to be pouring the coffee? Are you doing the admin? You know, I mean, your question was focusing on the Eurocentric patriarchal industry, that is the music industry being a Eurocentric patriarchal industry, and I think it's a reflection of society as a whole. And yeah, it's so the issues we're dealing with is not only the issues we're dealing with as women. They're not special to our industry, and I think that's become more and more clear over the past couple of years with all these movements. I mean, I can go into personal stories. You know, the first time I went to Stellenbosch University, that was the first time I saw a woman, Leonore Bredekamp, talking about a typically male subject, and I was like, oh hey, well, I guess women can actually do that, you know. And that was at the age of 19. That was the first time I realized that this was a possibility for me, and for me that's quite late late on in life. But I love that the conversation's becoming more prevalent. It's becoming more honest as well. And yeah, even with me, there are lots of things I've learned in the past couple of years about gender and identity and sexuality that I you know, I didn't grow up with these ways of thinking. And so it's cool that it's happening regardless.
Yeah, I think that what we've seen is, again, unfortunately, Black queer women are leading these revolutions. And obviously, the people who are getting hurt the most are Black trans women and Black queer women, and just in general, Black women are hurt by this, because we are the people who are affected by this mess that we have in society, where we have biases and people are treated unfairly. And then even within our own Black community, then we have the men not treating us the way they should, because they themselves are put into this box and this label of how they should be. This is what a Black man is. And then in turn, we are treated very violently, because, you know, I'm a man and I'm supposed to do this, and I drink a lot of beer, and when I come home, I do whatever I want, and you need to provide for me. So I'm really glad that we've hopefully stop with small talk and can actually be like, hi, so what is your take on Black Lives Matter? Or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Where should I start? Well, I'm going to be honest that I'm still new, and it's only been 2 years since I've been associated with Morris Isaacson, formerly known as Nyanga, and it has opened up another world to me that I was aware about, but not quite aware about, but I got to, attend orchestras, those kind of events at Linda Auditorium for seasons, and got more involved. And it was a completely new world to me. I'm still learning, but I do feel like it doesn't come natural. Right? So it's like, okay, cool. I have to find my sense of belonging, and I'm getting used to the music. Funny enough, I mean, we do know orchestra music from movies, and that's how personally I would relate to the kind of sounds. It is, I'm not gonna lie, it is purely white dominated, but I think it's historically based as well, from where it came from. Like Rebecca, as she stated, and we can't take that away from them. But my thing is, and working with the kids now, it's totally different because we're trying to prepare the future, right? I've always asked myself that, why aren't our kids here at the center playing South African repertoire, something that represents them, their identity? We're from Soweto. Why can't they play kwaito music in an orchestra, So those are the questions that I'm still having, like right now, and I'm speaking with our music director, and like, no man, Chris, I think we should incorporate a song by Mendoza and just do it. Maybe we can get Alex to write the music for us and put it in our curriculum, because I think that's when the kids, that's when our learners' confidence will be a bit more stronger. I'm not saying they don't have confidence right now, but I think because they grew up listening to kwaito, to where they're from, it will be easier to play, Yes, they must be well, like classically trained, no doubt. I fully support that. But I think what the problem that I have rather with my organization is that there isn't enough South African repertoire being represented. And I love what we do. I love our program, but there's something I just question identity most of the time, and in order for us to make it out there, we need to make it from right where we are, where we come from, and then go out to the world. I was chatting after, so your email. I did ask my colleagues who play with the JPO. Hey guys, just tell me your experiences as players of other bands, and they do confirm that yes, previously and even now, it is very much white dominated, but there is a progressive change. Things are slowly changing. But I think also that there are like more women right now, there is more women representation in our orchestras.
There was a very problematic white man who said, it's not the classical music industry's fault that kwaito music is not palatable or cannot be played on a symphony level. So basically, kwaito music cannot be written for the orchestra, because how are we gonna obviously put that together?
And I was so glad when the internet was just like, no, babes, you can't like this. It's 2020. Like, maybe 2010, you had a fair chance to still be racist, but us, yes, now it's done. And it was just like, so this was literally an article that was released. And the response to that was, this is just clearly, it shows that people are lazy. And there shouldn't be any empathy for organizations who are then not funded, because clearly you have no vision for the future and how to transform your organization. And you cannot just blame the fact that you are only playing white male composers by the fact that this is what your audience wants. Who is your audience then? And are you making a concerted effort to still get classical music, but get classical music out to more people and to have a diverse audience, and not just the same old wompies and tannies from Randebosch who come and visit you? Like this, like can we just have, you know, progress?
Yeah, I had a conversation on Sunday with my other colleague, who's also a musician, and we were talking about, you know, like the black composers within classical music. And he said, oh no, Lungi, actually we're looking in about like 5 to 10 years from now, because the music is not there yet. And I was like, but how come? I'm sorry, I just find it hard to understand how come, or like what's taking it so long. And then, well, he said that there is progress, but it's just not gonna happen anytime like soon. And it's not that we can't play quite in our own orchestra, we can. But you know, I think it's about those kind of conditional thinking that were embedded on people's heads, like for some time, and now they think that that's the way. And here I come, I want to break the rules.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, it's difficult to shift the mentality of people, but it's only when you do it, and then you know, then they will start to say, oh, actually no, it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah, in my opinion, to make decisions or to make sort of sweeping statements like that is to actually make an assumption based on nothing, based on no facts. It's just, it's sort of making these assumptions without firstly trying something out, or even just getting some facts in order before making decisions based on these assumptions. I think it's not good for 2020. It's a little tone deaf.
I think also when people say that, oh, well, whatever you are suggesting is only possible in 5 or 10 years, then that just means that they are comfortable with wherever they are, and your humanity is not more important than their comfort. So basically then we perpetuate a narrative, and we perpetuate these ideas and this culture where classical music is only for white people, classical music is only for older people, and it's not a place that is inclusive. It's not an open space where queer people and black people and young people and vibrant people can come and just, you know, share knowledge and come to a concert and really feel like they left with like a difference in energy. So then we just think, well, okay, I'm somebody who's not white, I'm not a man, you know, I'm not old, so obviously that's not for me. And I think we see then this culture that is perpetuated where we are now, where yes, we do have transformation within the industry, and we do have women composers, we do have black composers, but at a rate where I think the amount of black composers and the amount of women composers that are actually played compared to the amount of white male composers, at this rate, it will only happen in 5 to 10 years if we are actually not just pushing the status quo and being like, well, we're not accepting this. We're not just going to say, well, thank you, you know, for accepting me as your intern or whatever you want to give me, when in actual fact I am able to do the work and perhaps even better.
Or having to react in a certain way in order not to cause a stir, you kind of get used to throughout life as a woman. You know, on the one hand, people say you need to draw your boundaries and you need to be assertive. Sometimes you need to be aggressive in order to make a point, get a job. or whatever. But sometimes when you end up doing that, you draw these lines, making these boundaries. You know, I was once labeled as having an attitude, just for simply being assertive, and yeah, it's quite. I mean, that's quite discouraging. You know, you shouldn't have to. You know, you just kind of want to get on with the job. You want to get on with what the goal at hand, and you know, and to have to have that extra sort of burden. I think it's a burden to have to change how you feel, or talk away how you feel in order to make someone else feel comfortable.
On a personal level, I don't think I've had any experiences of sexual harassment in my work experience. But I've heard personal stories from my colleagues, and it was just funny because I had two different conversations. I had one conversation with two different people, and I got two different opinions. So firstly is that I asked Kanye, who plays with one of, I don't want to call the names of, these orchestras. And she was like, yeah, I do experience sexual harassment every now and then. And it's like, as a woman, even if maybe the conductor were to, you know, witness that, they're not gonna say anything or come and ask you if you're fine. I saw that person was tabbing, you know, your like your ass or something, and it makes her feel uncomfortable to some extent because, you know, you try and create all these boundaries, you try and like respect yourself and respect other people, and then all of a sudden a person comes and treats you like that, and then, you know, you start to feel like, is there something wrong that I'm doing? Do I dress inappropriately? You get to now all of a sudden get to question yourself a little bit more. And then I had asked another colleague of mine, and then she was like, no, I've never experienced any sexual harassment. However, you might never know, because sometimes people, they date secretly and you don't know whether whether they're in a relationship or whether they're not. So it becomes, you know, it becomes a whole complex issue. But I think sexual harassment, it's quite a problem for us as young women, because if I don't get to experiences, you get to be exposed to it. And I don't think we find a way on how we can deal about it. And what actually annoys me is that men often get away with it, you know, and it's still continuously happening, even like right now. Like I was reading another article of a famous radio station where the director was accused of sexual harassment by 4 staff members. It was not widely publicized on the news. He was still continuing to post on his social media like everything is normal. And I'm like, but hey, we've got an issue here, you know, and imagine that's just a radio station. This thing is happening in corporate, it's happening in schools, it's happening to our children. I don't know whether the problem is women that lead men to behave in this way, or why men behave in this way. I can't stop but to question what causes a human being to want to cross boundaries, you know, more especially in a work context.
I think where it starts is how we teach gender roles. So we don't really teach children that it is possible to have more than one gender, or to identify with a different gender. We don't realize that sexuality, gender, and your sex, that those are things that are sometimes not connected and can be completely different, or they can be connected. So we are basically teaching children exactly how they should be because of their sex. So as a woman, this is how you should be. You're a girl. You should wear pink. When we have parties for you, we're gonna have a nice cake with Barbie on it, and we're gonna buy you a princess dress, and daddy's gonna call you his angel and all of that. And that's nice. It's a very nice story to tell. But in reality, it's very dangerous because now you are teaching a woman, when she's pretty, when she has nice things, pretty things, then she's valuable. We're not telling girls, go play outside with your friends. Like, you can come in whatever time you want. Go and get your clothes dirty. Like, you don't need to have a princess dress. You can wear onesie to your birthday. It's fine. But we expect women to be beautiful. Like, we expect them to be all these things. They must be Wonder Woman. Women can't be lazy. They must want to clean the house all the time. And while they're cleaning, they must also be at the gym and in Pilates stands. But then it's just problematic. And then what we're teaching boys obviously is the exact opposite of what we're teaching women. So it's like, well, it's okay to be wild, being a boy. It's all these rough ideas, and we are teaching them how to respond to women. So respond to women with violence. When we say, if a boy hits you when he's younger, he likes you. What nonsense is that? Like, that's not cool. That shouldn't be condoned. We're not teaching kids, both boys, girls, and everything in between, that it is okay to say no when you don't want to be touched. As a child, I never had that option. I couldn't say, I actually don't want to hug this uncle, or like, can we please not like greet with a kiss and whatever, because this makes me uncomfortable. So you're teaching my child that if they say, I don't want to, and you say, no, 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 you have to do it. You're telling my child that their body is not theirs. That when I tell you what you're going to do as an adult, you do it. So even if you are uncomfortable, and especially as a woman, when you're uncomfortable, you kind of have to suck it up because this is what society expects from you. And then you grow up with this mentality of, okay, so my body is not my own and it is there to serve others. Whether or not you come out of that mentality and you are able to then have positive ways of thinking, it is still imprinted in you where your body is not autonomous, and it is then again for the male gaze. Something that what I think is very important is the dress code and how we teach women in the classical industry how they should look. For me, I've seen just an example. So I was playing in an orchestra, and we had a woman soloist, and I thought she looked amazing. And just the whispers and the murmurs on the concert day when she came out, I don't even know how to label it, because for me, I was like, yeah, queen, that outfit is lit. But the other people were like, did you see what she was wearing? Like, that's so revealing. And if she's going to wear higher heels, like she shouldn't open her legs, or like, because the soloist was a pianist. And they said, well, we hope she's going to wear something long enough, because otherwise the cellists are going to be distracted and they're going to be looking at her the entire concert. That's dangerous. And these conversations were had by women. Obviously, obviously, the obvious, men were talking about it and saying, oh, she's so sexy, I wouldn't mind doing this and that to her, which of course is problematic. But what's even worse is that there were women just gossiping about another woman and being like, she shouldn't wear that, that's too promiscuous. When women actually give consent and they are comfortable within their own skin, there's immediately backlash as to, that's too sexy, that's too much confidence, like she thinks she's all that, she's got this attitude. When we set boundaries, it's not healthy. It's, but why, you're being so unnecessary, like stop being such a bitch. We are so violent towards women, and it just needs to end.
In classical music, women need to wear like long dresses. You can be sleeveless, but you can't show your cleavage. I really don't understand why women can't dress up how they want to dress up. I mean, we're getting into summer right now, and if I feel comfortable in my body, of course, yes, it can be extremely short when I'm coming to work, right? But if it's short enough that you can't see anything, it shouldn't be anybody else's problem on how I look. As long as I feel comfortable in my own skin, then I'm fine. But yeah, it's so weird when other people start, when more especially women, when they start saying nasty stuff behind your back about how inappropriately you're dressed. But I think it's, yeah. And it's difficult because it's you know, it's all that mental shift, it's all the belief systems and the values that people, you know, that are just stuck in their heads. And it's, you know, it's about just showing them another perspective that, hey, this is just not only about that. I'm here to play. Just listen to the music. What am I wearing? What am I not wearing? That's not the matter, you know, but we here will just to make music. So let's just stick to that, you know.
Conversations like that, when women are ostracizing and insulting other women just for being comfortable in their own skin. And I do think it comes from partially it comes from this fear that there's not enough space for us all to take up. And there's plenty of space in this world and at tables and in concert halls for women to just be expressive and to to show up as who they are. And so I think the fear, which has obviously been entrenched in society and in the music industry, is that there's, I guess it is a highly competitive industry, but the fact that the competition, it's almost as though I read something where this woman was speaking about having 10 seats at the table. Generally 9 out of those 10 seats are men, and the one seat is essentially that seat that all the women have to fight for, or have to fight over. And I think that can cause fear, and that can cause and like that sort of nastiness where you think this is the only solution is to battle with another woman when it really isn't.
Yeah. I completely agree, because I've seen this in myself as well. When I see another female violist, and this woman is really just flourishing and everything is great, then I think, well, you know, what does she have that I don't have? Like, why can't I also be praised in that way? And then you just think, okay, but why do I feel this way? Are we in this industry to compete for male attention? Is that then actually what the goal is here? Or are we actually just here to make music? And I think once we realize that we are here because we have a common love and interest in music, that's literally it. That should be what binds us together. But unfortunately now, because we have these subcategories of, you know, you are black and I'm white and I'm a woman and I'm gay and I'm fat, whatever. It's like, okay, so these are the people who are my competition and those are the people that I should be with. This is the in crowd. And usually the in crowd is just the male crowd because they're so cool. But then it's not cool to have female friends because that's bitchy and it's catty and it's this like high school mentality where, you know, daar's net een hoofmeisie type of thing. And I find that just very problematic, and just something that's not actually related to this or 100% related to this. But for me, I recently played a recital and I included 2 works by women composers. And just my approach to those pieces were a lot more personal because I felt that there was immediately this bond that I had, even though this woman has been dead for like at least 100 years. I felt that connection of like, okay, but if she is a vigorous woman who could write or who could compose in like literally 19th attack, then I can take that courage and that vigor that she had and I can put it in my own playing. And something that I had to also consider was, what am I going to wear for my performance? And I had to think, okay, so if I wear something that I'm comfortable in, that is maybe perceived as like sexy or revealing, are people going to take me seriously as an artist? Am I going to be viewed differently because I'm comfortable in my own skin? Or should I rather cover up so that I don't distract people from the music? And that in itself is again like so problematic. And I actually was like, fuck this. I'm playing a piece by Rebecca Clark. This woman got through so much in a time when women were not valued as human beings at all. So she and this piece requires me to be a vigorous woman and wear whatever makes me feel confident and comfortable. And that's exactly what I did.
Feeling confident and comfortable as a performer, I think, is very important. You know, you need to be able to express yourself musically, but also to have your personality shine through in whichever way you'd like, especially on stage. You know, it's part of the performance. But I think I can speak just about being in a studio and wanting to feel comfortable in a studio. That usually when you're recording, you have to turn the fan off because the sound gets picked up by the sound gets picked up by the microphones, and generally these studios end up becoming hot and stuffy, and you don't want to be there covered in like sort of overdressed in these sorts of environments, because it affects the way you're able to focus on the work that you're doing. And so oftentimes I've had to wear very sort of loose fitting baggy clothing, firstly for comfortability, but also but also to hide my femininity, or to hide what is essentially deemed feminine about me, just because that femininity then also plays into how people perceive my abilities as someone doing my job. You know, I could walk into a studio with a little bit of clothing, and immediately I think the assumption will be, or the focus will go more towards how I'm dressed, and how that in someone else's mind is a reflection of the work that I'm doing. And just sort of that sort of it's quite a high standard to live up to. You know, all you want to do is just get on stage and play and express yourself, yet you still have to think about yet you're still being judged on top of being judged for the music that you're playing, but being judged just purely based on the way you appear in the space or on stage. But at the same time, it's, you know, it's not always like that. I do think, or at least in in the sound field or in the sound studio, it's not always like that. Sometimes you do find forward-thinking people, men, who are actually who are actually allies, or actually capable of understanding that it's, you know, it's all part of the job. We need to get our job done. It's fine if your arms are showing. This has nothing to do with the fact that you just forgot to record. So why didn't you press on? You know, like it's completely separate to what you're doing. But more often than not, it is the case of this preconceived idea of who you are, how well you're doing a job, based on how you look, which is not cool.
I just feel like we go through a lot as women, hey? Like,
some more tea.
Yeah.
So there was another white problematic man who said that he doesn't believe that women should be composers, and that it's actually just not a field that he feels women should be in, because obviously, naturally, we just all end up pregnant. We don't know how that happens. It just when you reach 30, you just somehow get pregnant as a woman, and then it's like, oh shit,
Yeah.
now my career is over. And it's
Yeah.
really this caveman mentality that people have, where your womanhood or the fact that you are able to reproduce is a problem. It's seen as an issue where it's like, ugh, now I have to pay for maternity leave, and now we have to get somebody in here and there. I have been a substitute teacher at a music school in Cape Town because the teachers were on maternity leave. And it was this kind of recurring joke where it was like, yeah, there's something in the water because all the teachers are getting pregnant. And that kind of just disrupts the flow of students because everybody's just ending up pregnant. So whoever they now employ either needs to be young or it needs to be a man so that we don't have these disruptions anymore. And it's just like,
Right.
oh, excuse. I didn't realize that, the fact that there's another life coming into this world is a disruption to you, and it's just not profitable that you now have to pay women maternity leave or whatever women literally need. So that is my experience of it. And also, obviously, being with very problematic conductors and problematic men who think that, this office banter, like you said, men just flirt with you and they make as if they whatever they're hitting on you, that is okay. For me, it's absolutely not. So people look at me and see the way that I dress, and see the way that I look and think, oh, okay, so she must be keen for a good time. And we didn't even have a higher, how are you, like, who are you, what type, whatever. It's just you're looking at me, you're making this assumption, and now I'm your plaything. And as a queer person, that makes me extremely uncomfortable because then somebody also assumes my sexuality. So men just think that I'm something that is there for their entertainment. And when they do flirt with me and I tell them no, or I say, but this is not on because I'm not even attracted to you, then it's like, oh, it's a challenge, or now I've even aroused them even more because of my queerness. And then again, I'm not even a person, I'm just the sex toy that is walking here, just being all promiscuous.
On your race.
Maybe it's just that I tend to be ignorant about things that I don't want them to concern me. And I tend to understand the nature of men, that they always, like hunting and always want something, no matter how you dress, whether you're wearing jeans or you're wearing men are just like, they just like that naturally. And maybe that I'm also comfortable with that idea, and I understand. So I don't get offended by those kind of things. Even with my colleagues, some would pretend as if like they're hitting on me, but I wouldn't take that seriously, or because I just I understand, and hey, I just set boundaries that we're here to work. Let's not entertain other things that are so ahead of us. But now I don't want to change the topic. I just wanted to touch base on what my other colleagues said, mainly about being in the music industry and how men often think that women are not capable of being good in their music careers because they fall pregnant, they're supposed to be housewives, they are, they're nurturers. So there is that notion that we as women, we can't keep up the momentum. Even if we do reach the breakthrough, there will be something that will disturb us in life, and we'll have to set back and readjust. you know. So that got me uncomfortable as in my position and trying to do my work best. I just, it makes me feel uncomfortable in such a way that I wouldn't want another person to think that I'm not going to keep up with my momentum because of a natural thing that I as a woman cannot make it happen alone, you know.
Um, yeah, I mean, I wanted to touch either on the topic of finding allies. The fact that I want you to say something like not all men, but that would have annoyed me by just saying not all men. But I do think it's important to also to actually, yeah, I'm going back to talking about men as allies, and I just sort of want to tell a personal story, which will be very brief. But in the 6 years that I've been sort of searching, trying to find a mentor in my field, the people who have helped me are obviously men, mainly men, actually obviously all men, but 4 out of those 5 times they've been men of color. And I think the reason I'm mentioning this is because it's very far off from the topic of sexism, and more it's leaning kind of towards race and the issue of race and being discriminated against because of your base. These allies also have been somehow oppressed in some way, or somehow stopped from doing what they want to do based on their race or sexuality. And so while we sit here and while we have this conversation about, okay, it's mainly men, white men doing all of this, I do think people are becoming more alert to what's happening. It's very slow. The progress is very slow, but I do think it's definitely there. And yeah, I think conversations like this is quite important to be had in order to push the agenda forward. Yeah, being an object of attention. I think that also takes us back to how we're socialized as children, and how boys are taught that this is how they should be viewing the world. And I think if we want to come up with any sort of solution, as you did mention earlier, it would be to go take it right back there to that point where a boy is being raised in such a way that he understands that a woman is not there just for eye candy or other sorts of pleasures, but it's another human being in existence.
But before I do, I wanted to just add that when we speak about men and we speak about toxic masculinity, this is both for you but also for everybody who will be watching this, that the culture of masculinity, that is what we are addressing. We are not saying that all men, because we know that not all men are problematic, of course. But the problem is with the culture that is toxic, that raises men in this environment where they are not allowed to have emotions. They are not allowed to be flamboyant. They are not allowed to be anything outside of the cookie cutter male that we envision men to be. And that oppression then is researched into violence against women and violence against themselves. Because why, I need to rage against something, but I'm not really sure what I'm raging against and why I'm raging. I'm really sad, but I can't cry because, I've got my bros here. And we've definitely moved ahead in society. And I am hoping that we no longer have this toxicity or deep toxicity within our society. But I definitely feel like there is this culture that is still ever present, and a culture that has also affected women. So, and this is why we have this conversation, because we need to make people aware of what we go through as women. I don't think that this topic or this type of conversation is always encouraged, because no, we should just be focusing on the music. But sometimes we forget that musicians of people. They have stories, they have histories, and that is exactly what I am trying to highlight with this. And that's why I invite musicians of all industries or of all genres and different types and different careers, because although we are all within this one industry, we have different realities and different experiences, and that is very important that people realize that. Thank you so much, Rebecca and Lungile, for being a part of the conversation today. It was
a pleasure.
Yeah, it was very informative for me, and I hope for you too as well. Yeah, and I hope for the audience, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you for challenging me, Lynn.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've ever had to do any interview like this, so thank you for that challenge.
Amazing. But thank you. It was very interesting, mind-opening, complex, broad. I feel like also, we didn't have enough time, but it's okay.
But then again, thank you both so much for being a part of this. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you both being women who are flourishing within your respective careers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you so much to my guests for the conversation today, and thank you so much to you for watching. I would like to encourage everyone to like and subscribe for the next episode. I have included a link to a backer buddy where I am helping a family in Nyanga. So if you would like to donate or assist in any way, please click the link or message me directly.